Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a quick unboxing of the Fuji 16mm f1.4 weather resistant lens. This is going to be a first unboxing and my initial impressions, and then I'm going to make a later video with some feedback about how it performed on my wedding today. Alright, let's get into it. So first we've got the box. It's pretty basic, pretty bland, just like every other Fuji box. It's pretty much a square. This one's a bit beaten up, but I can assure you this is a new lens. Alright, so let's get into it. So it's got the standard opening mechanism. You open it up, you get a nice little cloth kind of bag. It's black, it says Fujifilm. I don't think anyone ever uses these. I do like the Sony ones though, it's actually like a kind of case, and they do come with a lanyard, so you can just attach it around your shoulder, and it also has a little clip at the back, so you can attach it to the exterior of your bag. And also it's pretty convenient, you can just leave your lens hood or any filters in the actual little lens bag. So I would prefer if Fuji actually made like actual bags that could contain the lens rather than just a thin piece of fabric, as this is obviously good for dust protection and moisture and all that. This offers no protection, so I don't think I'll be using it. Obviously you've got all your documentation, you've got your phone numbers for all your like, as it says, the Fujifilm Worldwide Network. You've got your owner's manual. The owner's manual is actually interestingly shared with the 14mm f2.8 and the 23mm f1.4, along with obviously the 16 f1.4. So I guess the lenses are pretty similar in that they can just make one manual for all three. So now that we've got that, let's dive into the actual interesting component of this unboxing. So we've got this piece of cardboard, then we've got the lens. This little flap, little reveal. Ta-da! Don't see it? Now you do. Alright, so first we've got the lens hood. This is like a petal shaped design. I do prefer the square lens hoods, and you can buy it separately. It's called the LH-XF16 lens hood. It's by Fuji. It's of metal construction, and it comes with a nice lens cap that goes on the exterior of the square lens hood. Unlike the square lens hood design of the 35mm f1.4, which it has the square lens hood, but in the box it comes with a circular lens cap. It's kind of hard to maneuver out of the square lens hood, so it's like, how do you get a circle through a square? It's a bit of a dilemma. So the fact that you can buy this separately and it comes with a specially designed lens cap for the square lens hood is quite good. Although I would have preferred they included it, because $100 is a bit of an additional cost, and that's not an insignificant amount in my opinion. So anyway, there we go, we've got the lens hood. It's of the petal design, it's plastic, it says 16mm on one side, and like it always does, Fujifilm on the other. And obviously it's got this little white dot here, so you can align that with the lens, and then you turn it in order to get the 16mm at the top. That's pretty much like all Fuji lenses. Alright, so now I've got the actual lens. So I've got the packaging. It's not the greatest, but actually it's half the price of a Canon or a Sony like similar lens, so you can't expect too much, and it's decent enough. Put some ASMR here. Obviously we've got this silica. It's very nice. It's pretty aesthetic actually. The first impression in my opinion is it's pretty girthy. It's pretty solid for a 16mm lens. And to be honest, I think it actually might weigh more than the Sony 24mm GM. But you know that you're getting good build quality. It's an all-metal design, and honestly I prefer an all-metal design to the rubber and the plastic of many Canon and Sony lenses. So looking at the lens, it has some amazing demarcations of the different aperture ranges. And the biggest feature for me is this clutch focus. So you just flick it down and it has hard stops. Most mirrorless lenses these days, they just spin for infinity. You never know when you're at the beginning or the end. And the fact that it has this, even though it's not a traditional manually focusing lens, it's still like focused by wire, and when you turn it, you will be able to feel the electronic motors working. It is an improvement over the ones that just rotate infinitely. Further to that, I've got the aperture click wheel, and in my opinion, I really enjoy these. These are a big selling point for me with the GM lenses from Sony. Canon obviously has with their RF lenses a control ring, but obviously that has some more functionality, but I do prefer the aesthetic look of having the aperture stops marked on the lens and having it dedicated to one sole purpose. It's a lovely feature, and the fact that people don't enjoy it actually really confuses me, as it's an incredible way, and it's a very tactile way actually, of controlling the exposure triangle with your camera, especially with Fuji's. You've got a dial for the ISO, you've got this for the aperture, and you've got another one for the shutter speed. It's amazing. You have all three inputs readily accessible to you. I couldn't ask for more. And of course with this lens, it comes with the WR rating, which is weather resistant. So you've got this nice rubber gasket, and it looks spectacular. Honestly, the build quality of Fuji lenses is really amazing, despite the relatively low price. Then you've got this big front element here. It's a 67mm diameter, which isn't too large, as in you can still get readily available filters which are affordable and available at many stores. Unlike especially with the 85mm 1.4 art lens, that is an insane filter size, and hardly any stores actually stock any kind of filters for that lens. So it's a benefit to have a 67mm size. Although I do wish that Fuji standardized their filter sizes across their lenses. Perhaps for the f1.4 and the f1.2 lenses they could have one size, and then for the f2s and the f2.8s they could have another size. That way you'd have great interoperability between your lens filters. And I would highly recommend Fuji to take this on board, as it would be beneficial for the majority of users. So now that we've got the physical build quality and the apparent features of the lens, my overall first impressions out of the way, now let's talk about why I purchased this lens. Alright, so I purchased the 16mm 1.4 as I wanted something that was bright. I wanted it to be able to produce decent enough bokeh, and I wanted something, in all honesty, to be able to replace my 24mm GM that I've been using on my Sony systems. So in that sense, I'm pretty sure this lens is going to live up to my desires. What am I going to use the lens for? Well, I think it's great for establishing shots at events and weddings. You always need a few wide-angle shots just to capture the overall vibe and feel of the environment. In addition to that, I think this lens is amazing for environmental portraits, especially of the bride and groom in a nice natural landscape, perhaps a big tree or the ocean or something like that. They can be small in the frame, they can still be the focal point, but you're going to get a lot more of the atmospheric vibe into that shot. And also on the topic of weddings and events, oftentimes you're trying to get group shots of individuals. And for that, I feel that 16mm, which is equivalent roughly to 24mm on a full frame sensor, is the perfect focal length for these kind of group shots, which really are the bread and butter of especially event shooting. Not so much weddings, but it's still crucial there. But if you're a professional photographer, you're most likely going to be taking photos of group shots, and for that, the 16mm will come in handy. Establishing event shots, environmental portraits, and group shots at events and weddings. I also think the Fuji 16mm f1.4 will be absolutely amazing for product photography, especially with its minimum focusing distance. With this lens, you can get amazing shots of products from what I've seen on YouTube and Instagram, and perhaps that's what I'm most excited about in terms of my own creative expression and casual day-to-day shooting, beyond my utilization of this for events and weddings. So I think this lens is incredibly versatile, and I'm very excited to use it. In fact, I'm actually going to be using this lens today along with the 90mm f2 that I recently picked up for a wedding. And now of course, beyond this initial unboxing and my first impression of this lens and today's wedding shoot images, which I'm going to include in the latter half of this video, I will be coming out with a full review of both this 16mm and the 90mm lens in the very near future. So stay tuned into this channel, hit subscribe and click that bell if you would like to see my full review on the 16mm f1.4 and my full review on the 90mm f2, both for Fuji. Thank you for watching, and now here we have some of the wedding images I shot today.